Portfolio Committee on Employment and Labour. We've got yourself, Chair, Honorable Dunzwa. Can you hear me, Chair?
I can hear you. Honorable Mkonto, can you please mute? Honorable Mkonto. I can hear you, Zolan.
Okay, Chair. We've got Honorable Dunzwa, Honorable Nonsele, Honorable Mdabe, Honorable Mkonto, Honorable Bagram, Honorable Denner, Honorable Kado from the Portfolio Committee so far, Chair. Honorable Zuma did indicate that she has a problem with load shedding, so she might be in and out of the meeting. She has not yet joined at the moment, but she did mention that to me. From the apology from the department. Oh, I think I see also Honorable Ngobo, Chair. I'm sorry for that, Honorable Ngobo. From the department, we received an apology from the DM, Honorable Muloi. That's all I have received so far, Chair. From the support staff, we've got myself, Hoshi Andabeni, Tebuho Mkwena, Xolelwa Mabindisa at this moment, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakaza. From the department, DG.
Good morning, Chairperson and the honorable members from the department. Where I am, I'm with Mr. Motiba, who is the CEO of Productivity South Africa, Ms. Broncost, the COO of the department, Mr. Tebuko Maruping, the Commissioner of UIF, Ms. Fakir, the Acting Commissioner of Compensation Fund, Mr. Sam Rotoba, who's the DDG Public Employment Services. And we have on the platform, we have the CFO, Mr. Beki Maduna. We have colleagues from the CCMA, which are Mr. Kolani Nduta, the National Senior Commissioner, Dispute Resolution, acting. Ms. Maputi Mabaso, who's the Chief Financial Officer, acting. Ms. Nolufefe Nyamezeli, who's the Executive Governance and Strategy. Mr. Ngosi Kosi, the Chief Information Officer, CCMA. Ms. Sanele Hlope, Chief Audit Executive. Mr. Asanda Mkaka, Senior Manager in the Director's Office. We have also the Executive Director of Netlec, Ms. Seftel. We have the Parliamentary Liaison Officer, Mr. Wababa. We have Sabelo Mali, who's the spokesperson for the ministry. And we have also Sbusi Sopakati, who's the CEO of Supported Employment Enterprises. We have Zandi, who's the head of the, Zandi Mueli, who's the head of the Deputy Minister's Office, and the Chief of Staff, Mr. Kangala Mutumela. And we have, I think, other colleagues, as they come in, Chair will introduce them. We have Tebo Khotijane, who's the department spokesperson, is also on the platform. Thank you very much, Chair. Of course, we have Mr. Matapelo Mataboche, who's in my office, will be running the presentations. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, DG. Do we have any other people that have introduced themselves, Mr. Sakaza? Who is TWS iPhone? Who's TWS iPhone, Mr. Sakaza?
I thought it's the minister, Chair, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. PMGI is Mr. Rama was trial over Ikona upper meeting. Says I co-party. You can't have somebody who doesn't want to introduce himself or herself in the meeting who is not a member of the portfolio committee. Puleng, what's your problem? Are you here or is it your jacket? Honorable members, today we are holding our meeting after the State of the Nation address and a whole week. The whole week it was the State of the Nation address tabled by the president, and then there were debates that were engaged on as parties. And in the State of the Nation address, each and every sector or department, I think, have that responsibility of analyzing. Even ourselves also as members, we do have that responsibility of analyzing the State of the Nation address, so that as we conduct our oversight, we are then able to also to check on those areas, and also as we'll be preparing for our budget vote. So we must take today's meeting, our agenda item for today is the presentation by the department on their analysis on the State of the Nation address, which also includes debates. I will then hand over, I don't know whether the minister is in, just for a brief overview. If the minister is not in, we'll then hand over to the DG to take us through. Over to you, and the Bono Minister, DG. DG. Okay.
Greetings again, Slalo and the honorable members. Matapelo is going to beam the presentation as she's getting ready to do that. Just want to preface our presentation, Chair, by the following points: that the department's vision is to create an environment that is conducive to investment, economic growth, and decent employment. And everything that we do is geared towards giving effect to this vision. The way we're structured in such a way that we're able to give meaning to that vision and the mandate. So everything that we're going to say today is also justifying and giving meaning and meaning to our vision. So our presentation will consist of the following items. We'll talk about the social compact, because social compact was mentioned by the president as the important aspect that we need in order for us to deal with the whole host of challenges that we were experiencing as a country. The employment retention and creation, presidential employment stimulus, our role as a department, reducing the regulatory burden on small business, occupational health and safety inspection and enforcement. When we looked at the SONA and having read and also listened to what the president was saying, in our analysis, the president was saying that true to the tradition of the South Africans, there is nothing that we can do if we don't talk to one another. There's nothing that we can do if we don't find one another. There's nothing that we can do if we we are disjointed in our approach. So if government seeks to resolve issues that we are currently facing all by itself, government is not going to make any significant impact. So is business and the broader society. So the president then implored us to make sure that there's social compact. To that effect, there's broad agreement on 8 priority interventions. And engagement with the social partners will continue, as the minister indicated in his response to SONA, when he mentioned those 8 broad interventions, and that we, as a department, we will continue to engage our social partners in order for us to achieve a social compact. It is anticipated that 5 or more economic sector compacts will come out of this process, as with the ESCOM social compact. Chair and the honorable members will remember that already we have existing compacts signed, with the different sectors. ESCOM is just but one of those, but we've got others that we've signed with the different sectors, driven by the Department of Trade and Industry. So we'll pursue those and combine them so that eventually we'll have this big social compact that the president made reference to. Consultation on employment retention and creation, consultation with the relevant government departments on the national employment policy will be finalized by September 2023, whereafter it will be submitted to Cabinet for approval. So we took it that President was saying that all efforts that we have, that each department has, have got to be implemented faster. If it's policy development, that policy has got to be sped up so that we move with speed in addressing issues that relate to employment. So that's why we're saying the national employment policy will be finalized after we have had sessions with the government departments. It is envisaged that the policies will be implemented by March 2024. I think we've made this commitment to our annual strategic plan and the APP, the annual performance plans, that by March 2024, we would have, from our side, completed the policies. And that also is reflected in both the minister's performance agreement and the DG's performance agreement. There's also, as part of the effort by the department and the presidency, to address the issue of unemployment, there will be a coordinating committee that will be created, employment coordinating committee that will be established, that is to be chaired by the deputy president, and will include economic, infrastructure, employment ministers, organized business and labor, and community organizations. The president, I think, has always made it clear that the recovery of the economy will be infrastructure-led, and that's why we're including that, because once we move with the infrastructure projects, a number of jobs will be created through construction activities that are going to take place. The committee will also focus on macroeconomic policies that are demand-led and pro-employment, a trade and industrial policy framework that facilitates labor-intensive investments, a skills and educational framework that is relevant and supportive to our growth interventions. We're very happy, Chair, and the honorable members, that the Department of Basic Education, over the last 2 years, they've started introducing technical subjects high schools, and that bodes well for for the kinds of skills that we require, and also provides a pathway for young people instead of channeling them through to the traditional institutions. So they now can move in a different direction and acquire the required skills so that they're able to compete in the labor market. But most importantly, those are the technical skills that are required by the economy. A work seeker support through our interventions at our labor centers. We provide various supports to work seekers and unemployed. So we'll continue with that. And part of that 350 also is to provide that support to work seekers, because they should be able to travel, from wherever they are, to attend interviews. That's why that 350 is so important. Employment retention and creation continues an ecosystem that promotes sustainable enterprise development, self-employment, and positive regulation to the informal sector. So that's what we thought. So that's what we thought.
Mr. Morotoba's mic is on. Sorry, DJ. Can Mr. Morotoba please mute?
Okay, I think it's sorted out, Chair. So we're saying an ecosystem that promotes sustainable enterprise development, self-employment, and positive regulation in the informal sector. That's the approach that we think is needed to be taken. For instance, one of the key elements of our strategy to employment is promotion of enterprise development through labor activation program that we run, and also obviously the work that is done by the Productivity South Africa. And key to that is the regulation of the informal sector, which means that we need to bring the informal sector into the mainstream, so that even those workers who are there are able to benefit from the labor market policies that we have, including social protection coverage. The rapid extension of social protection to workers to improve employment outcomes and to mitigate shocks, a labor migration policy and legislative framework that promotes migration to and from South Africa, that benefits the economic needs of our country, productivity and mobility of labor. The draft will be submitted to the Interministerial Committee on Migration and thereafter NEDLEC for discussion. There is a robust and well-coordinated labor market information system framework for monitoring and to ensure continuous improvement. On the presidential stimulus, I think the president went to town in terms of indicating the success of this program, with over 1 million young people who have been given job opportunities. Our part as a department is to continue to coordinate the pathway management network with the presidency to achieve the department and other departments' medium-term strategic framework targets in supporting young people. I think the committee will remember that we have, on a number of occasions when we appeared before the committee, stressed the importance of the pathway management network as it provides young people with access to opportunities that are sitting in the different networks. So the importance of these networks working together to provide a better service to the work seekers and unemployed young people is key. And this is proving to be yielding positive results. In terms of the call by the president for us to reduce the regulatory burden, our analysis is that indeed small and medium enterprises are battling not only to comply, but battling with the administrative burden that is imposed upon by a number of the legislations that we enacted over the years with the good intentions. However, given the negative impact on the small, medium, micro enterprises, we've made a number of proposed amendments to the Employment Equity Amendment Bill to the effect that small businesses that employ between 1 to 49 employees be excluded from implementing affirmative action measures. SMMEs will only be required to comply with Chapter 2 of the Employment Equity Act, dealing with the prohibition of unfair discrimination in their employment policies and practices. Next. And of course, there's a discussion that is taking place at NetLink with regards to reducing these work that is currently underway. On the occupational health and safety, because it is important that we keep people or we keep workers employed, and we working with the companies, we spare them from losing these workers, and also we know that the cost associated with training a new employee is huge. So we want to make sure that we keep people in employment. When people wake up in the morning to go to work, we want them to return to their communities as they were when they went to the workplace. So to deal with a high number of work-related injuries, we are amending the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 1993 to introduce measures, including increase in fines and penalties to deter unscrupulous employers. And we also want to maintain the national minimum wage to protect vulnerable employees who would otherwise continue to be exploited. We continue to combat non-compliance with the labor laws by employers, thus protecting employees from exploitation and an unsafe working environment. Combating child labor is part of the daily work of the Inspectorate. In addition, the Durban call to action, being the outcome of the Global Conference on the Elimination of Child Labor, is a landmark in the movement against child labor. We'll continue to combat child labor through our inspections. So we're saying here, once we want young people to partake in economic activities, we need to protect children so that they are able to grow, they're able to play, they're able to go to school, they're able to develop their cognitive abilities, and without any negative influence by our practices as adults. Two key areas that are relevant to productivity in South Africa, the work that they do. Earlier on, I mentioned the establishment of an Employment Creation Coordination Committee to be chaired by the Deputy President, and that will be tasked with ensuring an ecosystem that promotes sustainable enterprise development. This is in line with the ILO's Productivity Ecosystem for Decent Work program, which is implemented by the ILO's Enterprise and Employment Departments in collaboration with the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs and the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, and being piloted in South Africa, Ghana, and Vietnam for 2022 to 2025. Productivity SA chairs the project's advisory committee with two outcomes areas. One, public-private platforms have an improved capacity to support productivity enhancements through evidence-based policies, better access to value chain and trade opportunities, as well as conducive supporting functions facilitate SMME productivity growth and decent job creation. Productivity SA will scale and accelerate its enterprise development and support programs with a focus on company turnarounds and value chain competitiveness of industrial SMMEs, both formal and informal, to support localization. On the CCMA, on the impact of the national energy crisis, load shedding on dispute resolution operations and processes, the CCMA's assessment and our assessment is that the frequency and duration of load shedding got substantially worse in 2022, and the CCMA and its operations have been severely affected by load shedding, as most of the CCMA offices do not have alternative sources of energy. The CCMA, like most organizations, is highly dependent on electricity for effective operations. CCMA operations, and in particular the statutory functions performed by the Dispute Resolution Department through its various offices countrywide and outlying venues, are important on various levels by load shedding. Are impacted on various levels by load shedding. The SONA did not provide immediate solutions to address the current energy crisis, even though the president spoke about the appointment of a electricity minister with an attempt to consolidate everything that has to do with the challenge that we're facing, so that we very soon can resolve the issue of electricity shortage. The impact, again, on the CCMA on statutory mandate as a result of SONA not providing tangible solutions to improve the status of the economy and labor market, it is anticipated that there may be a negative impact on the CCMA's job-saving initiatives, an increase in Section 189A, dismissals based on operational requirements, dispute, less flexible mandates for Section 189A processes, less flexible mandate for wage negotiations, non-compliance with labor legislations, including but not limited to the National Minimum Wage Act, which may lead to increased referrals to the CCMA, non-compliance with CCMA awards and settlement agreements, which may result in increased enforcement processes, such as certificates and sheriff costs in respect of vulnerable workers earning less than the PCA threshold. Thanks. Possible instability in the labor market, leading to the likelihood of increased industrial action. At this stage, the extent and impact of the national state of disaster is not known to the CCMA. All of the above will most definitely impact on the CCMA's budget, which is determined by the grant received from the National Fiscus through the Department of Employment and Labor. Ways in which the CCMA discretionary functions may contribute towards meeting the objectives of SONA through its dispute prevention and workplace outreach and capacity building interventions. The CCMA has identified several ways in which it may contribute towards meeting the objectives of SONA 2023. These potential and actual contributions are grouped in line with identified themes extracted from the President's SONA report and are set out below. If you look at the vulnerable sector interventions, at present, the CCMA has one of its strategic focus areas, that of providing capacity building and outreach services to business and labor within the vulnerable sectors. The vulnerable sectors identified by the CCMA in terms of its strategic focus include agriculture, domestic, private security, and mining. As far as this is possible, this also includes role players such as subcontractors that play an important role in the value chain of the identified vulnerable sectors. It is suggested that these interventions need to be enhanced and eventually expanded to address other vulnerable sectors. The CCMA, in collaboration with Business Unity South Africa, developed a free-to-use web tool and mobile app. The CCMA/Busa Labor Advice for Small Businesses web tool and mobile app, CCMA and Busa Labor Advice app, which provides tailor-made information to SMMEs and others on labor law and includes templates that may be used by the employers for purposes of managing internal disciplinary and incapacity processes. It is suggested that with additional funding, this project could be expanded to focus on the needs of the small-scale farmers and other identified areas within the informal sector. The high cost associated with the translation of information into the other SA languages remain a barrier in terms of content accessibility. On capacity building and outreach services to external users, capacity building and outreach services and other labor law awareness interventions that are currently being delivered, and which may be expanded upon with additional funding include the following: training interventions on key areas of labor law, including but not limited to those areas identified in section 1153 of the Labor Relations Act 66 of 1995. Advocacy campaigns and training on the temporary employer relief schemes that serves as a potential alternatives to retrenchments as part of the broader job-saving initiatives. Workplace transformation interventions that serve to enhance negotiation skills and workplace mediation skills of role players within the sectors. The CCMA boosts labor advice for small businesses web tool and mobile app, which provides free-to-use information on labor law, including access to templates that may be used by employers for purposes of managing internal disciplinary and incapacity processes. It is crucial that these interventions by the CCMA are adequately resourced in light of their support for compliance with labor laws, contribution towards job savings, labor peace, and thereby also economic development. Examples of other current CCMA workplace transformation interventions that serves to support the SONA 2023 objectives include the Agricultural Research Council, Building Workplace Relations, ESCOM, Airport Company of South Africa, Capacity Building for Line Management, Public Health and Social Development, Sectoral Bargaining Council, an example of capacitation and support for bargaining councils that operate in industries that support the SONA objectives and serve vulnerable citizens. The CCMA internal capacity building interventions to support the objectives of SONA 2023, internal capacity building interventions to ensure that CCMA staff, including part-time commissioners, are responsive to the challenges of the vulnerable sector employers and employees and are equipped to deal with potential and actual consequences related to the economic and electricity challenges. Sector-specific awareness, raising of commissioners, sector-specific training related to agriculture, retail and mining, capacitating a large pool of commissioners to deal effectively with Section 189A, which deals with large-scale retrenchments, and Section 189, small-scale retrenchments, dispute to conduct BWR interventions and to run effective multi-party mutual interest mediation processes, including the management of picketing rules and public interest interventions. Additional capacity building and outreach services in support of the objectives of SONA 23. The following additional interventions may be explored, but will require additional funding to fully execute them. Potential for collaboration, expanded training and capacity building of SMMEs and informal sector entrepreneurs. Explore further collaboration on short learning programs with tertiary education institutions, NCTAs, and other areas of collaboration with the Small Enterprise Development Agency, SETA. The CCMA in Gauteng currently provides services to the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller. On youth development and workplace skills development, it is suggested that the CCMA could contribute towards the provision of experiential learning opportunities through learnership internships, observations, and work integrated learning. However, a current lack of funding prohibits the organization from paying those who may engage in formal internship or leadership programs. It is suggested that an opportunity exists for a closer relationship between the CCMA and the National Youth Development Agency, NYDA, to capacitate youth-run enterprises on labor relations matters. The CCMA currently partners with 7 public universities, which is University of the Western Cape, University of Stellenbosch, University of KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, Witwatersrand, and the Northwest University, to deliver a post-graduation qualification that includes a vocational component known as Labor Dispute Resolution Practice Program. This is an effective way in which the youth can access CCMA commissioner training while also benefiting from an accredited qualification. Due to budgetary constraints, the CCMA has not been able to provide bursary opportunities to full-time staff. Since 2020 to date, this has a direct implication on the continuous professional development of the organization's complement. On the issue of witness protection intervention, the CCMA has capacity building interventions that address the rights and protection of whistleblowers in the workplace. The CCMA further trains its commissioners on the interpretation and application of these rights. Support for the objectives of the Continental Free Trade Area. The CCMA contributes indirectly to the success of the Continental Free Trade Area by working with the International Labour Organization to strengthen identified labor dispute resolution institutions within the SADC region. To date, the CCMA has provided training for the Namibian and Eswatini dispute resolution practitioners and has provided support to counterparts in Zimbabwe and support to a Kenyan government delegation in their endeavor to establish a mediation dispute resolution. When it comes to NEDLEC, NEDLEC will be working on restoring energy security, and social partners considered the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill, and social partners engaged on the implementation of the ESCOM Social Compact, which looked inter alia at challenges facing ESCOM, accelerating generation and removing obstacles in this regard. The mitigating the impact of load shedding on food security, water and transport network, engagement with ESCOM, NESA and social partners, and also inputs into addressing how to best develop rooftop solar, as announced by the President, ongoing engagement on accelerating private investment in generating capacity. On just transition to a low carbon economy, the Presidential Climate Commission, which is a social partner body, became a program under NEDLEC for a period of 2 years until the climate change bill is enacted and it can be set up as an institution on its own. There's an ongoing support to the Presidential Climate Commission, collaboration with the Presidential Climate Commission on energy issues, consultation by PCC with social partners, including on the Just Energy Transmission Investment Plan, transport and logistic, engagement on white paper on rail, including in respect of third-party access, and ongoing engagement on port congestion and freight challenges. And there's an ongoing engagement to address these issues. On the employment creation and skills development, report back on progress with public employment services and extended public works program, and oversight on the extended public works program, the establishment of an integrated skills development and human resource task team to consider issues including master skills plan, funding of higher education and workplace. On investment and localization, there's ongoing work on the trade and industry chamber, including oversight over master plans and consideration and oversight over national investment plan. On social protection, there's a consideration of the white paper on social development, and of course, available to engage on proposal for improved social protection. Crime and corruption, there's anti-corruption working group to track social partners' initiative to stem corruption. On water security, the NEDLEC has received presentation on the proposed water resource catchment bill. So there will be possible engagement on the proposed bill. On the red tape, there's ongoing feedback and engagement on the red tape reduction initiatives in government. On the procurement bill, the social partners considered the public procurement bill and revised regulations. And on the SOEs, to receive a presentation by the minister responsible for the DPME on work being done on SOE restructuring and addressing challenges. The Compensation Fund, Chair and honorable members, on the key objectives for SONA 2033 is a comprehensive social compact that will join all social partners in a common program to rebuild our economy and enable higher growth. The Compensation Fund plays a vital role as a social partner. During the financial year 2023-2024, the fund will implement the COIT bill, the bill which will ensure social security benefits are extended to domestic workers. The fund will continue with the implementation of the rehabilitation and reintegration program for injured workers and those who acquired diseases in the workplace to prioritize skills development and retraining of injured workers with disabilities. The fund's benefits, which comprise of medical compensation and rehabilitation to injured workers, maintains the participation in the labor market. If you look at the work that is done by the Unemployment Insurance Fund, the emphasis of the SONA on preserving the functioning of the economy amid the electricity crisis, a serious implication for the Department of Employment and Labor, and in particular, the Unemployment Insurance Fund. The fund will strengthen its spending capability to utilize its 3.1 billion budget under its labor activation program and its 3 sub-programs to respond to the current socio-economic challenges. Temporary employee relief scheme, which provides support to distressed companies that seek to retain their employees. Distressed eligible companies are funded 75% of an employee's basic salary up to a maximum amount of 17,000 per month for a maximum period of 12 months. Employability enhancement program that enhances employability of the unemployed and enable entrepreneurship and preserve jobs by integrating the unemployed people back to the labor market. The fund intends to recruit 240,000 unemployed people into the LABS employability program by the end of the medium-term period of the 240. A target of 75,000 is planned to be done by the end of 2023-2024 financial year. In order to enable entry and re-entry into the labor market and economic participation, the sub-program has recruited about 65,733 between 2019 and 2022 and Q2 of 2022 and 2023 financial year. Business turnaround and recovery implemented through Productivity South Africa enhances the productive capacity and operational efficiency of enterprises throughout the business life cycle in order to preserve jobs and minimize retrenchment of workers. So through its 126 labor centers and online platform, the UIF will also deploy its reduced work time benefit claim to augment the reduced income of workers whose work hours are interrupted and thus preserve household livelihoods. The UIF and IDC established a fund with objective contributing towards sustainable job creation and retention by supporting job creating transactions while providing concessionary funding. The fund size is 5 billion and funding criteria are applicant can be a startup and existing businesses whose applications are geared to saving and or creating jobs, job creation or saving new and sustained jobs and jobs saved. Already these approved transactions resulted in the expected creation of a total of 11,225 jobs and 15,134 jobs that were saved. Chair, thank you very much. We will leave it at that. We'll take questions. I have the leadership of the entities and the leadership of the department all present here, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG. I thought I saw the minister. I want to welcome you. Oh yes, he is in. He will give him a slot after we have questions have been taken and responded to. I see there are 2 hands. 3. Okay. Honorable Kato, Honorable Bagram, Honorable Dana, Honorable Mkonto, in that order.
Thanks, Chair. Slide 14 contains a remarkable admission. In other words, it says, as a result of the SONA not providing any tangible solutions to improve the status of the economy and the labour market, it's anticipated that there may be a negative impact on the CCMA's job-saving initiatives, which I thought was worth noting. But be that as it may, my question relates to the establishment of the Employment Creation Coordination Committee. And I'm curious to know exactly what it's going to achieve. I see that it's going to include organized business and labor and community organizations. So my question is, how is it going to be different from NEDLAC? And then secondly, it seems to have a very wide mandate, including focusing on the skills and educational framework to support growth interventions and work seeker support and industrial policy and macroeconomic policy. To me, it just sounds like yet another parallel governance structure. You know, we have a proliferation of these very impressively named committees which achieve very little. So forgive me if I'm skeptical. But anyway, one of the things mentioned in the presentation was the rapid extension of social protection to workers to improve employment outcomes and to mitigate shocks. What would this entail institutionally? Would it mean an expansion of the unemployment insurance fund and an extension of the type of UIF benefits available? If so, we know the fund is already under huge pressure and is battling to pay benefits timelessly. So I would like to know what impact this rapid extension of social protection to workers would have, especially given our budgetary constraints, which we are likely to hear more about this afternoon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bagram.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. I just want to quote from the SONA, and the sentence was read right at the beginning. The people of South Africa want action. They want solutions, and they want government to work for them. Now, that comes from the SONA. In other words, the SONA is telling us that they want action, and action means dates. When is it going to be done? Now, the entire presentation we've heard today and the entire SONA didn't give us any dates, didn't have any targets, didn't have a D-Day, and I'm worried about it. But let's move on. If you look at slide 6, it says a skills and educational framework that is relevant and supportive to our growth intervention. That's wonderful stuff, but has anyone thought about setting up a task team to liaise with the chambers of commerce and to find out what's needed in the economy? Because we tend to train people and then people can't find jobs. You go to slide 7, an ecosystem that promotes sustainable enterprise, self-employment and positive regulation to the informal sector. Now, the problem that we've got is you can state as much as you want that you promote self-employment, but then when you look at the labor laws, it defines worker as anyone. And that then is counterproductive, and maybe they want to go back and change that definition of worker, because if you want to encourage self-employment, then no one's going to engage you if you become a worker through the definition of worker. If you go down on that slide, it says a labor migration policy, which is fantastic. It's a breath of fresh air. It's fantastic. And I applaud the president for this, and I applaud the department for this, but when? We can say we're going to have a labor migration policy and we're going to have legislative framework that promotes migration. We've done exactly the opposite, but when? Well, when are we going to try and do this? Another problem. If you go to slide 8, it says that you want to basically continue to coordinate the pathway management network with the presidency to achieve other departments' targets in supporting young people. But we then talk about job opportunities. Now, a job opportunity could be in a job for one day. Could we talk about jobs that are basically permanent jobs instead of the one day, and which come up boost, I think. Go to slide 9. And I think this is absolutely fantastic. It is a breath of fresh air again, and I applaud the department with reducing the regulatory burden, calling for that for years. And it is fantastic. But again, when? I mean, we can say we're going to do this. Small businesses that employ between 1 and 49 employees. Is this going to happen next month, next year, 10 years' time? When? Because, again, we can keep saying it and we'll say it at the next SONA and nothing was done. The same with the next bullet point.
Which will be the last one?
No, I've got a whole lot, unfortunately.
The lot is how many?
I've got another 20.
No, Mr. Baker.
Well, this is a very important
I know, but you can't have 20. I mean, you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the fifth one. Can you
okay.
please?
Can I just get a few more then? I'll just ask for a few more. Okay, if we go to the CCMA, I'll skip a lot of those. We go to the CCMA. I think it's absolutely imperative that the CCMA keeps figures for the Section 189A dismissals, but they also have got figures for the 189. In other words, small business dismissals and retrenchments. That's important for the UIF to know where we're going, because the CCMA are telling us that their workload has become absolutely enormous and it's getting worse. I think it's vital that we need to have someone collecting that information. It can't be that we are moving in the dark, and we need to coordinate the CCMA and the UIF to tell us where we're going. The increased industrial action. We are already seeing increased industrial action. I suspect by the end of this year, we'll have mass industrial action, very similar to what we saw in KwaZulu-Natal 2 years ago, and we're going to see it across the country. Because of the instability of the labor market, it's getting worse. Bottom line is the CCMA geared up for this, and is the UIF geared up for it? The vulnerable sector informations, I need to applaud the CCMA. Their web tool, which I use, is fantastic. I'd like to see them expand if possible, but they've done enormous work, and they need as much as they can to do that. The capacity building is also excellent. I need to applaud them for that. If we can just look at
the last one.
Wait. Okay. Number 9, no, slide 19. Capacitating. Someone has now got their microphone on. Capacitating a larger pool of commissioners to deal effectively with the retrenchments that are going to take place. I think that is vital, because otherwise this will lead to that problem that we are experiencing, and we experienced in KwaZulu-Natal. The learnership program has done enormous work.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Okay, I've got a lot more to say, but okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dana.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, and thank you for the presentation. Chair, I might have missed him, but I don't see the Commissioner of the UIF, and I really hope he is on the platform. I would like to know, in the light of complaints regarding payments by the UIF mounting, and there really are a lot, I would like to know if anything will be done to strengthen the administrative capacity of the UIF. I've been in contact with the Commissioner. You'll remember in every meeting he says I must contact him directly with cases where I've mentioned before repeatedly that people are asked to submit and resubmit the same documentation over and over again. It's still happening, and I have been corresponding with him, and yet those problems have not been solved. So the administrative capacity is really a problem of the UIF. I'd like to know if something will be done to look into that, because if the administration is in a state, then no one will get paid, and that would render the UIF redundant. And then secondly, Chair, I'd like to know with regards to the national minimum wage. The Commission recommended an increase of 0.5 or 1% above inflation. But yesterday, with the announcement of the national minimum wage as from 1 March, it's almost 2% above that at 9.7% increase. So I'd like to know what the rationale behind that is, and also why the big difference between the national minimum wage imposed on private sector employers and then the 13.97 rand per hour that is paid to employees of an expanded public works program. So I'd just like to know those three things. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Dana, before you get off the, I'm sorry, before you mute, would it not be important that for the benefit of also ourselves, that you do reflect which province, and in that province, which region is having the labor center that is having a problem with the payment of UIF claims? I know you have been consistent on this, but is it not about time, without referring us to the commissioner, just to say, I'm making an example, in Gqeberha Labor Center in PE, this is a persistent problem for the benefit of the committee, so that if a member feels like touching, going there and observe that, is able to do that, was any public representative is feel free to do that. I don't know whether you'll be able to just one or two provinces, and in which region in the province?
Thank you, Chair. Can I respond?
Yes.
As I said, I've been in contact with the commissioner. It's a number of labor centers and it's a number of provinces. I'll compile a list for the committee. I can show the
Please.
committee. I
Okay.
can, off the top of my head, I can think of an example in Gauteng, Eastern Cape, Free State, Northwest, and Mpumalanga, which indicates that it's a countrywide problem, but I will compile the list.
Please. With the region. With the
I'll do
region
that,
and the town where the labor
and the
center
specific
is.
labor centers as well. I'll do that,
Yes.
Chair.
Yes. Honorable Mkondo.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Good morning to you, Chair, honorable members, the Minister, the DG, and his team. Chair, I would first like to apologize for disturbing the meeting earlier on by not muting. I thought I was muted. Chair, it will be maybe a comment and a question. The policies, the plans, the strategies, they sound very good, Chair. But I think we have a problem in implementation. Chair, the DG said, just reminded us that the roles and responsibilities of the department is to create a conducive environment for employment and job retention. But I think, Chair, this time around, we have to check this part of retention, because most of our plans, seemingly they focus on job creation. And because we don't look at the retention part, that is why we end up having a high rate of unemployment in the country. The example, Chair, will be the roles and responsibilities of Productivity SA. I think, Chair, that is one entity that in this coming financial year has to pull up its socks, because, Chair, we are having government SOEs that are shading a lot of workers. And you ask yourself, where is Productivity SA? Maybe it is true that the level at which we are ranged worldwide, that we are not productive at all. Because if Productivity SA can come to the party and serve the people of South Africa, I think, Chair, we can be able to improve in as far as the roles and responsibilities of this department are concerned. My question will be to the UIF. If, Chair, is possible for UIF to give at least quarterly statistics according to the beneficiaries that are making applications to them, to say these ones are because of, are due to the fact that companies, private companies, public entities are non-productive. That is why we have shared these jobs and these people have applied. I know that UIF doesn't deal with only those who have lost their jobs. They deal with other things, but can we be able to assess at least quarterly those that come to the UIF because they've lost their jobs, and we identify them as have lost their jobs because of non-productivity of certain private companies and public entities? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkondo. Honorable Dana, is that your legacy hand? Honorable Dana? Okay, I'm sure it's an old hand. DG, those are the questions and comments. Over to you for response.
Chair, I request to start.
Oh, okay. All right, Minister. DG, can you please
First,
mute?
Chair. Thank you, Chair. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Minister.
Thank you. Chair, I must apologize but I came at the time the DG was introducing his team. And unfortunately, we're sitting with a problem at 120 Plain Street. Only one lift is working. So for 15 minutes, we've been waiting for that lift to carry us. That's why I was a bit late. Sorry, my apologies for that. Well, if I listened to Honorable Cardo, who says SONA has not provided concretely what is to be done, I want to start by saying I'm not sure if SONA has to do that. I think the president raised the issues, the interventions. However, you had people debating SONA. You had ministers expanding on what the president raised. But further, we must not forget that ministers still have to present their budget votes, which are going to go into details on some of those issues. We're still going to draft the PPs, which are going to give the details and talk about the when and the hows and so on. That's what those other programs are going to do. And the second one is, how is this employment coordination, how is it going to be different from NEDLEC? NEDLEC deals with the policy matters. NEDLEC deals with the socio-economic policies, which all stakeholders are supposed to make comments, including legislations and so on. But this particular committee, the intention was to say, there are different initiatives which are not properly coordinated, which are happening at the different levels, at local government, at provincial government, and also at national government. Those initiatives need to be pulled together. They need to be coordinated so that they do not contradict one another. So it's the implementation, which is very, very key. And that it has been given to the Deputy President to lead it. It shows that we've all taken it very seriously, the issue of unemployment. And we invite social partners because we want to be transparent about these programs which we are implementing, so that if they also want to contribute, they have ideas, they can be able. So this is meant for fast-tracking the implementation. That's why it's coordinated at the highest level. The issue of the social protection and what are we expecting? I just want to raise this clearly. If you look at the rate of the retrenchments, definitely you have to expand. You have to deal with a lot of workers who are going to come to the UIF. You must expect that. You must expect that the CCMA itself is going to be very, very busy. You must expect that Productivity SA is also going to be very busy as those factories are closing, how to save them and so on. But workers are going to flock into the UIF, and that number is going to be increasing because of the retrenchment, unless we're able to halt the trend of the retrenchment. So we are expecting that. And the issue of the payment, well, I agree with you, Chairperson, because we've long been talking about this for 2 years. If the honorable members are able to do so, give us the exact numbers. And then in the next meeting, you are able to say, we had given you this, how far are you? That's how you are holding us accountable. That's how we are holding the officials accountable. I think I've answered the issue of dates that let's wait for the APPs, let's wait for the budget votes, which are going to be able to give that in detail. And some of them are going to be informed by the budget today as to how much, which we're going to be able to get. And also, we must accept that under these constraints, under this economic climate, there are going to be problems in terms of funding almost everything, unless we have a way of dealing with the notion of big debt, which is increasing in this particular country. So there will be programs which will be compromised. We are also expecting that there will be more for employment, of course, because it's one of the biggest areas where we are being challenged. Have we thought about working with the various sectoral chambers and so on? In fact, that's why we indicated that the social compact should not just be something at a high level. We need to drill it down. And we have agreed now that in all the programs which we want agreements on, we will take them into the sectoral councils, the various chambers. We will be dealing with them directly, and the CEOs directly of the big companies, so that we're able to talk to the ground, not talk at a higher level. How do you encourage self-employment with the current labor legislation? People must tell us, what are the problems? We've already indicated through the DG what we want to review. They must tell us what are the areas which we need to review. And self-employment remains very important, but it doesn't suggest that workers' rights should not be respected. Workers' rights will remain respected, but there will be areas where we give some concessions. And not that we are saying to those people, workers' rights should not be respected. So if there are areas, we must not talk to this thing as if it's just a song about rigid labor market. We must tell us what exactly is rigid, because different studies have come up with different conclusions. The ILO has come up with a different conclusion. The OECD has come up with different conclusions. Some of the research sponsored privately is coming up with different conclusions. But most of the international institutions have dismissed the issue of South Africa's labor market being rigid. So it becomes, unfortunately, an ideological debate. But we're not going to budge on the issue of what we call the workers' rights. They must be respected by everybody. They might not be able to enjoy everything given the size of the employment and so on of the different companies. Honorable Mkhonto, the roles and responsibilities of Productivity SA. I think it's very clear that Productivity SA is going to be very busy in trying to intervene and working with the CCMA. It's clear that those institutions are going to be busy. Some of the issues, as we are talking about, refining those roles, are going to be refined in the processes. Definitely in the processes, we are going to be able to do that because we're operating in a changing environment, able to respond to those issues. I think it's part of your accountability of what you're raising, that UIF must give the quarterly statistics of the companies that continue to return. I think we can be able to do that if we analyze the data which we are looking at the workers who are coming into our labor centers. But I will leave all the other details to the DG and the various officials. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. In listening to you, I think that you have covered most of the questions that have been raised, responded to questions that have been raised. Yeah, I don't know whether maybe should I say additions, if they are in terms of but I think we have touched all of, with the exception of CCMA. I would have appreciated if, with the concerns that have been raised in terms of CCMA, if I noted my questions correctly. But no, it's fine at DG and other
Chair,
officials.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to respond to just one question and ask the officials that are on the platform to also respond, including CCMA and NETLEC, on certain issues. Just on the adjustments to the national minimum wage, the honorable members will remember that when we came to the committee to present the national minimum wage bill, we clearly indicated what would be the functions of the National Minimum Wage Commission and what will form or how they would determine the wage increases, what factors would they consider. And one of the factors that the Commission considers is the inflation, the cost of living, and the need to maintain the value of the minimum wage. They also look at the gross domestic product, wage levels, and collective bargaining outcomes. They look at the productivity and also the employer's ability to carry on their businesses successfully. So it's a whole range of factors that they look at, and they then make a decision based on the outcomes of those considerations that, or having looked at those factors. I'm not gonna respond on the rate that they proposed this time around, because I think the minister is still dealing with that. But I just wanted to indicate factors that are considered when that rate is proposed for the minister's consideration. I'm going to ask start with Productivity South Africa to go through the questions that are related to the area of responsibility. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Productivity.
Thank you, Chairperson.
You have got an echo. Either you've
I
got
think
two gadgets that are on.
let me go back to the reflection as in the presentation as I respond to Honorable Mkonto's comments, that indeed what we have observed over time is that there is an increasing demand for our services, both in terms of job retention, in terms of turnaround strategies for companies that are going through distress. In the second area, where there is an increasing demand, it's in relation to enterprise development and support program interventions, your Kaizen interventions, as well as the workplace challenge program interventions. And that is the reason why we, in this presentation, are saying we are going to scale and expand on our interventions, precisely because we understand that we do have a productivity and competitiveness challenge, which we believe that we will be able to address collectively with both business as well as labor. In the 2023 financial year, in terms of our thinking, it is that particularly as we implement the productivity ecosystem for decent work, which we implement through the support of the ILO and the two countries that we have mentioned, we believe that we are going to be able to scale our interventions, and we'll be looking at what the outcomes are. I must indicate, Chair, that when in engagement with the UIF, we've begun to see a return on the investment that they made in terms of turnaround strategies, because a number of companies that we intervened in are beginning to rehire. And also some of them are showing signs of creating additional jobs. And I think we could look at that report and make it available to the committee if required. So this intervention on turnaround strategies for companies that are going through distress, it's paying dividend. So the money that is being invested in there, I think it's really beginning to show. The unfortunate thing with the state-owned entities that Honorable Mkonto is mentioning is that they come to us when the horses have bolted. I'll give you the example of the South African Post Office. We are in engagement currently with the South African Post Office to look at their operational efficiencies and how can we assist them to ameliorate the challenges of job losses. But unfortunately, they are almost on the brink of collapse. If they came to us about a year ago when these problems were emerging, we believe that we could have assisted them to mitigate some of the challenges. But there's a number of things that we have agreed with them on to say we will have to do as a matter of urgency, so that we're able to help them out of this situation. But they've already made a commitment to retrench. So we have always made a pronouncement to companies, not only state-owned entities, but all the companies that come to us in time, not when you are actually facing distress. It is true that we're going to be very busy, and also we are going to also look at doing things differently so that we're able to do better for the economy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other entity? I think, yeah. Any other entity, DG?
It's UIF, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to respond to the question raised by Honorable Dena. I think the question, the Minister has already covered them. Chair, I want to lift up maybe 5 things that have been done to date to deal with the areas of strengthening administration at UIF. I think the first one is we have picked up that we need additional leadership in the provinces, and to that end, we've introduced 9 additional directors, which is 1 per province. We are in the process of interviewing these directors. In some provinces, we've already appointed directors, and in some provinces, we are shortlisting, and in others, we are interviewing. The other area that we've improved on is the 500 additional call center agents that we've brought in to help us to deal with the number of calls that are coming through. And I think this has been done in anticipation as well of additional applications for unemployment, UIF benefits as the economy began to experience the pressure of the load shedding. I think that the third one, Chair, is across provinces, we're introducing 2,052 additional client services officers across all provinces. So we'll be introducing just over 2,000 additional CSOs across provinces. We'll also give them 458 additional supervisors. This is also in an attempt to streamline processes and also bring additional hands across all the provinces. And then thirdly, we are going to be introducing a number of technologies. Some of them we had deployed, but there were glitches in these technologies, and we've pulled them back just to fix those glitches. Is the app, the USSD, and also to revamp the online platform. The intention is to ensure that we reduce the number of people that are visiting the labor centers and we direct them more to our online platform. Lastly, Chair and members, I want to lift up the project that has been implemented by the Minister with bringing in PwC to review and revamp both compensation fund and UIF. The intention of this project is to review processes, the structure of both institutions, to look at technology and to look at strategy, just amongst the things that the company is looking at. We've appointed PwC. We're expecting them to present a report in the next 12 months with an intention to start implementation once we've seen what they're recommending. And I think all of these strategies are intended at improving both environments, both at UIF and compensation fund. And we'll be deploying some of our SEP technology that we've been developing over the years in the next few months as part of improving technology on the ground. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there anything
Chair, may I
that
ask
is
the Public Employment Services to say something?
Okay. Are they around? Where are they, DJ? Mr. Morotoba, can you please mute? Mr. Morotoba, magamute. It seems as if we have got a problem. Am I the only one who has got a problem? Are people still in the meeting? Or I'm alone? Hello?
We are here, Chair.
We are in a meeting, Chair.
The meeting. But where is the person that is supposed to respond? Digi said he or she's going to respond. She's not, she is Akako Digi. All right. I think, honorable members, we we have received the responses that have been given to us. Before I just want to go to Productivity SA. Please submit to us through the secretary some of these companies that you have assisted, and in which sector and in which location. We wouldn't like to have a general information,
Chair,
because
I'd also like to give CCMA an opportunity to speak.
it's because I've been calling people, they're not responding. CCMA.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. It's Polani Ndona, the Acting National Senior Commissioner for the CCMA. The areas that I wanted to perhaps speak on, which were raised by the Honorable Bahrain, it's in relation to Section 189A and Section 189, where he said we need to be providing stats with regard to the jobs that we are saving. What I wanted to say is that as the CCMA, every process, every dispute that is referred to us, that gets captured, and we do have the stats. We have the case number of each and every employer that we have assisted, and also with especially 189A, which are big or large retrenchments. You would have the stats that speaks to initially what the employer had initially intended to, the number of people that the employer had initially intended to retrench prior to us engaging with them, and the number of people that have been eventually retrenched, and the number of jobs that were saved. And we also, in most cases, when we deal with these 189A and 189 small retrenchment, also throw in Productivity SA. And we've just heard from the official from Productivity SA speaking about the post office. We are also currently in the process of assisting the post office with their retrenchments. And we will also be engaging with the Productivity SA to see how far can we be able to save the post office. But I can also say, which is the same sentiment that we given by Productivity SA, is that when we receive these referrals, it's at a point where the employer has already gone down and is on the verge of either closing and is on the verge of either retrenching. And whatever programs that we try to bring in, like the tests which we do in conjunction with the UIF, you find that you will be able to reduce the number of people that may have been retrenched. But if we had gotten these much earlier, you'll find that the number would have been much bigger. So those are some of the challenges that we find. And also when it comes to the anticipation of the industrial action, yes, we do anticipate, given the socio-economic situation in the country, given the question of the load shedding, the question of the networks, that there may be big industrial action that are going to be taking place. And as we always do, we will make intervention, and we have made intervention in the past through Section 150, where we invite the parties if they've not approached us, and we engage with them and we mediate those disputes. And we also, and so if people are going to go on strike, that there are picketing rules, because you'll agree with me that in the past we've had a lot of violent strikes, and with the picketing rules that assist in reducing or eliminating violent strikes, in that people know what are the rules, they know what are the picketing lines, and they know what is it that needs to be done and not to be done. We also engage with the employer to provide abolition facilities for the strikers so that everything goes and it goes in order. So those are the issues that we do. And the work that we do, it's not a pie in the sky. We're doing the work as and when we receive it, like our PWR are being implemented on an ongoing basis. The training and of both the internal and the external national users are done on an ongoing basis. And we can provide all the stats in that regard. Thank you, Chairperson, and the colleagues, and also the honorable members.
Thank you very much, Acting Director. Anything, DG?
Chair, I thought the
No, Chair,
NEDLAC would also raise something.
No, I'm not the acting director, I'm the acting National Senior Commissioner. Our director, unfortunately, has not been here. And I am Olani Nduna. Thank you, Chairperson.
Sorry.
Good director.
NEDLAC?
Thanks, Chairperson. I think the minister really covered the issue about the overlap or potential overlap between the Coordinating Committee on Employment and NEDLAC. That NEDLAC focuses on policy, while the Coordinating Committee is going to focus on implementation. But obviously, we will ensure coordination between the two institutions, between the two structures, and make sure that there's no duplication and overlap. I think the DG also raised earlier on about what we're doing in NEDLAC at a policy level to reduce the regulatory burden for small businesses. There is an ongoing process, which I think I've reported on before, of the Labour Law Task Team. They're looking at a number of issues, particularly around speeding up processes of dispute resolution and dismissal. And obviously also, to respond to the issues raised by the CCMA, if there are less vexatious disputes getting into the CCMA, or disputes from high income earners coming to the CCMA, which could be solved in another way, then it means the CCMA can focus on the important and real issues which they have been referring to. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that was the last response from the entities. Having said that, members, I think there's one important issue that has been raised by one of our members. With all the issues that have been raised in SONA, and what then, and the minister is correct, is that in the budget vote, that's where then they are going to say, we will do this by this time and whatever. What Honorable Mkondo has raised, and Honorable Minister, which is really a challenge, is the implementation, is the area around the implementation, which is something that really at times make us all to be, as much as we appreciate and we are excited about some of the issues, among others for myself, is that now government has realized that it is important to collaborate, work together as departments to ensure that your mandates and policies are then implemented. So I think that working together, that collaboration is really going to be quite important. So it's really, we will monitor, working together with basic education, monitor the implementation of these technical subjects. Very important. Very important. I don't want to go back before 1994. In fact, let me not be apologetic about that. Before 1994, there were technical schools right across. My junior secondary was in a technical school, but they are no more there. They are not there. Instead, those that, so that basic education is going back to that curriculum. Is quite exciting, because it will address the area that we have always been complaining. We always complain about skills at times, but we forget to then say, to analyze and evaluate, to analyze why the skills development has dropped in our country in terms of class, gender, And I think that is a very exciting move from myself in terms of the State of the Nation address and the assessment and what then the department has presented to us. I want to go to to Productivity SA. Please, by next week we will need that information, so that when we prepare ourselves, we are preparing with confidence, not to be general. Which companies have you assisted, in which sector, and where are they located in terms of province and region? And honorable members, I do think that this is a very valuable information, and we will be looking forward, Minister, to your APP, so that when we prepare for our budget vote, we prepare for our budget vote with us being focused and being confident that at least we are going through the right. It has not been easy. At times we speak as if it has been easy in this country. We have been victims of a number of in fact, a pandemic that has changed our lives completely. And that pandemic came when we were at least affected by it. It's a global challenge, the issue of economy. And then the pandemic. Yes, there are weaknesses that we cannot run away from, but we've got a responsibility of working together as the people of South Africa, because we may be separated, we're not separated from one another in terms of gender and class, but we are one people, irrespective. We are a people of South Africa. So I think we have got that responsibility now, that we will await those amendments in terms of OHS and Minister, the reduction of regulation. I agree with you 100% that in whatever reductions will be made, are going to be made, but please, we must say it without being afraid of anything, that there can never be, there won't be any regulations that will be amended that will subject workers to a situation which is not their rights. Yes, their rights goes with responsibility from both sides, the employer and the employee. So we must ensure that, because workers have perished fighting for these rights, and our responsibility is to protect them. But I agree, Minister, we can't protect for the sake of protecting, but there are those that will never give in. So all of us have got ourselves as the committee, as you have said, people, there are research, there are ourselves. We must also say, we think here, we don't think here, so that everything is put on the table and we really see what, but there are those that are non-negotiable. I'm saying it upfront. As the chair of this portfolio committee of employment and labor, there are those that are going to be non-negotiable, unfortunately. Having said that, members, just to remind you that the next meeting, which is on the 1st, is going to be physical. Mr. Sakaza will circulate the venue, please. And Honorable Minister and the DG, ensure that your CPDOs are going to be present in that meeting of the 1st of March. I think we Having said all that, we thank you very much for all the responses from the minister. I don't know, Minister, whether you do want before we close, is there anything? Okay, nothing. Thank you, members. Our meeting stand adjourned until we meet next week.
Thank you very much. It was almost a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Good afternoon. Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, we're Minister. Yes, Minister.
Uthengisile now cross the floor.
Ndithengise njani ngoku? Ndithengisanga ndazi soze ndithengise, mna ndazi nje.
Mna kuthiwa ndiyathengisa. Mna kuthiwa ndiyathengisa.